Guys, welcome back to another episode on the Coach Approach podcast with myself, Dom Dorico. And today's topic is going to be attacking social events. How are you going to manage socializing at the weekend or during the week, depending on when you do it, whilst you are on a fat loss journey? Now, this is something I'm going to talk to you about on how I do it, how I've done it through two photo shoot preps, how I've done it through a bodybuilding prep as well. I'm pretty experienced on how to manage socials and still drop a considerable amount of body fat. And this is how I teach clients to do it. And this is how they create incredible transformations. And being social is important. If you follow me on my Instagram, I always talk about nourishing your social battery. It's good for our mental health to see friends. It's good to be out and doing things, having wholesome weekends, having wholesome social events. We just don't need to go over the top. You don't want to be a hermit in terms of, your training. You don't want to just work, train, work, train, work, train, sleep, and stuff like that. You've got to be making sure that you're taking care of your mind, seeing your friends. There is that constant push and pull. I have had clients that have overly socialized and, start getting really depressed from the alcohol and the hangover and starting to put on weight and then just feel terrible about themselves. So there is that constant push and pull of, not going too far, but that's for another podcast episode. So today we're going to talk about the managing of social events. And I'm going to give an example of if I am going to go for an evening social with my partner and we're going to have a dinner and we're going to have a couple of drinks. So how would I do that on a Saturday night? And I know that's coming up. And let's say I'm on 1,800 calories. That's my deficit. That's my deficit number with everything else included. 1,800 calories is what I can eat per day. That's keeping me in my fat loss, keeping me on track with fat loss. Now, I want you to think about calories as spending money now. So I'm going to give you two approaches. Well, the approach that I absolutely love, and it's called calorie banking. This is what I do all of the time. It's what I get clients to do all the time. Now, what is calorie banking? Like I just said, imagine your calories, 1,800 calories that I'm on, is 1,800 pounds that I can spend. We want to save some of that to spend at the social in the evening. So how are we going to do that? Two ways of calorie banking. Number one, calorie banking on the day. This is what I love doing. This is what I do all the time. I'll tell you the next one, the other way of calorie banking, but I always like calorie banking on the day. So we've arrived to Saturday. It's 1,800 calories. I'm going to check the menu. Most of the time I get clients to check the menu, see roughly what you're going to have. And most menus will have calorie numbers on have the calorie numbers. Let's say, the food is 750 calories. I'm going to have a bottle of beer and a diet, a rum and diet Coke. 700 calories for the food, 150, 120 calories for the bottle of beer, and 50 calories for the spirits. Let's say it's 870, 900. Let's just make it a round number. Let's just do 1,000 calories. It's 1,000 calories with my food and a couple of drinks that I'm going to have in the socials. Cool. That now leaves me £800, 800 calories, remember, to spend during that day. Now, I'm going to push my first meal as far as I can. Generally, I like to have my first meal around 10, 11, or 12, depending on the day, depending on how many calories I have. A lot of people, we're fasting in the morning. Now, fasting is actually really good for you. It's actually quite good for the gut. Is it absolutely necessary? No, we've shown that it's not absolutely necessary, but it can be quite good to not even think about food in the morning. And our bodies, our minds and our bodies, like we can survive, guys, without food for more than 5, 6 hours. All right. So many people panic about, oh my God, I'm not going to eat any breakfast. Our body can live for days without food. Okay. So stop getting into your mind that you're not going to have any breakfast and going to go into a meltdown. Our body's literally accustomed to survive. So my first meal is going to be around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And I'm going to have, I've got 800 calories. So I'm going to split that in half. I'm going to have a 400 calorie meal. It's got to be low calories, always a bit of high protein and good micronutrients. What's my go-to? Always going to be Skyr yogurt, however you want to pronounce it. But have the Skyr yogurt with strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, a little bit of dark chocolate, Bosch, 400 calories, good protein, high protein, good micronutrients from the berries, a little bit of dark chocolate for the fats, sorted. That's now me done for the first meal of the day. Now, if I've still got more calories, which we do, which we have 400 calories, it gets to 2, 3 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I could definitely do with another meal before I go to the evening social. So I'm going to have, normally what I do is I have seasoned chicken and vegetables. That can be anywhere between 200 to 400 calories easily. Spinach, carrots, peppers, all low calorie stuff, great micronutrients, sorted. So that's now, I've now spent another 400 calories with that second meal of the day. So I've had 800 calories in total, and now I've got 1,000 calories to spend at my social event with, a friend or partner or whoever I go with, because I've already had a look at the menu and I know what I'm going to have. So that is calorie banking on the day. I'd also encourage lots of hydration in the morning, electrolytes, coffee. I'm a big fan of coffee, to keep you going as well. But you just maneuvering spending money throughout the day. And I don't recommend you having your first meal at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Okay. That's a long time without eating. When we start eating, sometimes it can be a bit harder to not have that. You won't be fasting after you've eaten, but if you have your first meal quite early, you generally want to be you're going to be a bit more hungrier. Hence why I'm muscle building. I'm on 4,000 calories now. I'm always having my first meal around 6 or 7 a.m. because I need a bigger time window of eating. With fasting and calorie banking, we are reducing our time window of eating as well, and we can survive in the morning very easily. So that's calorie banking on the day. We are saving those calories to spend in the evening, and we're having low calorie foods but high protein, good nutrients. You can be advantageous with this. It doesn't have to be what I've said, but it always works, no, without doubt. So that's the first approach of calorie banking. The second approach, which I'm not really a fan of, it does work, and I have used it with some clients, but I personally don't like it. It's that we're going to calorie bank during the week. So let's say we are on 1,500 calories in a deficit per day, and we've got the social in the evening. And it's the same social. I'm going to have 1,000 calories at the social event. We are going to be taking calories away or saving them Monday to Friday. So we're going to calorie bank during the week. So Monday, we happen to get a certain amount of calories. We're going to save this calories, save that calories. So let's say, we're 1,500 calories per day. We know we need to save 1,000 calories. So I'm going to knock off 200 calories per day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to save 1,000 calories for the evening on the Saturday. So that means that my total of 1,500 calories drops down to 1,300 calories because I'm calorie banking 200 calories Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Friday. And that's the calorie banking during the week. Hopefully, I'm not losing you guys because there's quite a few numbers. But 1,500 calories per day. We're going to take 200 off to save 1,000 to spend on the Saturday night. Now, the reason I'm not a massive fan of this is because we are already in a low calorie number. And most of my clients and myself, we're training hard. Food is fuel. If you're really depriving yourself during the week, it can be harder to adhere and stick to and be consistent with it because you are reducing it that much. And that can then reverse the effect, and you're actually going to binge eat, and you're actually going to eat more than what you need to. You're actually going to increase your hunger hormone. It'll be on high alert. Now, that's the reason why I don't like it. It reduces our performance in the gym. What's our main goal? Retain muscle, train hard, have lots of energy, as much energy as we can during the day. Why I love the calorie banking on the actual days, because it's just one day where we need to fast, be mindful, etc., etc. On the actual day of calorie banking, we're not worried about macros. Just get some high protein as much as possible. But I wouldn't worry about the macros. I'll just be caring about the calories. And then again, if you're calorie banking during the week and you're taking calories off, less room to hit your macros. So those are the two approaches. Try both. Calorie bank on the day, calorie bank during the week. See which one you get on with. I always works with the calorie banking on the day. But those are my two ways of approaching calories for a social event. So that's what my first 2 points on this piece of paper that I had. Now, how are you going to approach the food and drinks on the social event? Well, what I do is make sure I always have a high protein meal. Whether it's chicken, whether it's fish, whether it's beef, whether it's a steak, I'd always have something that's high protein. If I'm on a fat loss phase, I am going to ask for no carbs and only vegetables or salad. So if it's steak and chips, I'm having steak and salad. If it's chicken and potatoes and vegetables, I'm having only chicken and vegetables, no potatoes. I'm going to ask for no potatoes. So I'm reducing my intake and making sure that I have, if I haven't already checked the menu and know this is how much it is, This is if I'm just completely guessing. I'm always going to reduce that carb intake. Um, I wouldn't be going for starters, mains, and desserts. You know, you're on a fat loss journey. You know, you can enjoy a main with a friend and lots of conversations. You don't need to have your start, main, dessert. I literally went to London last weekend, and one of the desserts was 1,200 calories. Insane. That's like how much some of my clients are on right now on the photo shoot, and just one small dessert. So you really don't want to be going for a three-course meal. You want to be having one course. You got to be respectful of your goal. When it comes to alcohol, I always personally go for bottles of beer over pints, less calories. Perfect. You know, pints of beer can be up to 300 calories in a bottle is half, if not more than half, less than half. Um, and then when possible or all the time, I would always go for spirits and diet mixers. Now, spirits and diet mixers are the lowest calorie drink you can get. Literally is the lowest calorie drink you can get. So let's say a pint is around 300 calories. My Captain Morgan's and Diet Coke is 50 calories. Let's say someone's going to have 5 pints on a social at 300 calories, it's 1,500 calories, and I'm going to have 5 drinks of my rum and Coke, Diet Coke, it's 250 calories. Can you see the difference now with the amount of calories that they're having? I'm still having a good time. I'm drinking a drink that I like. I'm sipping on it throughout the day, I wish. I'm sipping it throughout the social, and I'm still having the same amount of glasses. Okay, this is where the big difference comes from pints of alcohol and the spirits and the pints. You're on a fat loss phase, guys. Remember, calories come from alcohol as well. You know, you can literally have 10,000 calories worth of alcohol on a Saturday and Sunday. You're going to put on a lot of fat. So calories are calories at the end of the day. So that's the substitutions that you need to be making with drinks and food on a social event. You have to, okay? You need to be doing that if you actually care about dropping body fat. Um, I've already spoken about food and water. You know, during the day, if you're calorie banking on the day, I'd always have lots of water, have lots of coffee. You know, I have 2 or 3 coffees a day because I absolutely love it. Training. Okay. So training on that day, I'd always try and get a training session in. Now, if I'm training early in the morning, I would have to be fasted. So I'd need to be making sure I'm well hydrated. I've had pink salt in there. Or I could technically, you know, and I have done this before, if I'm training early in the morning, I have rice cakes and strawberry jam. It's about 350 calories. And I'll give myself a bit of food for fuel. And then I'll have my post workout much later in the day. But that's just depending on how you want to approach it. Might want to get a little bit extra movement, so a little bit more steps. You know, if it's sunny, get out there, burn some calories. You know, you might be overly consuming a little bit more on the social event than you'd want. And remember, the menu that say how many calories they have on it is never 100%, so it's just a rough estimate. So training, you can still do that day, I would, but make sure you're well hydrated. Make sure you have maybe a little bit of carbs if you want. You could have dextrin, which is a powdered carb in your intra drink, and just have a lot of electrolytes. Make sure you have electrolytes as well. Training fasted is absolutely fine. You can still do that. Now, the day after is actually so a lot of my clients are like, oh, I can't make progress on a social. No, 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 no. The social is not where you actually lose the progress. It's the day after where you're hungover, you are feeling awful, you are ordering loads of food, you are going for crisps, you're going for a dirty burger, you're not moving, and then the Monday comes, you're still fucking hungover, you still feel like crap, you don't want to go to the gym, you're not doing your cardio. Tuesday you're feeling a little bit better, but you're just going to do a little half-hearted exercise, a little half-hearted workout. But on the Monday and the Tuesday you're still not eating correctly. Wednesday now we feel much better, and now we're back in the swing of things. So it's actually Sunday, Monday, Tuesday where you are absolutely messed up, not sticking to what you need to, overly consuming and under moving, under moving. So you need to be prepped for the day after. So if I'm going out next weekend when my brother's back from Australia, and it's going to be a big session. It's going to be one of my big sessions that I have every few months. I don't have big sessions like this, but on the Sunday, I'm going to make sure I have all of my yogurt, my fruit ready to go, lots of hydration, electrolytes, anything for my head as well. Can't remember what the vitamin is actually now. But if you're unprepared and you wake up and you've got no food in the house, you've got no fruit, nothing. Fruit is great, by the way, on a hangover. You are literally going to go on Deliveroo and go, right, where's McDonald's? I'm getting it delivered. Terrible idea. I always make sure I'm going to get outside and moving at least. You know, if it's a nice day, I've got to make sure I'm going to take the dog for a walk. Most of the impact of your fat loss journey, where it's impacted in terms of going backwards, always comes from the days after. It's never normally the social event itself. If you are poorly prepped for that day after, and if you don't get your ass up and do the things that you need to, you will take steps back without a doubt, 100%. So just think of that next time that, socials aren't actually the bad thing. It's the days after where you feel like crap and not moving and not training and overly eating. Now, my last point I wanted to make is mindset. And there's three words that I've put: replacement, substitution, sacrifice. These are the things that you need to do if you have a fat loss goal. None of your friends have a fat loss goal. None of my friends are into bodybuilding. None of my friends really care about calorie banking. So when I go out for a drink, they're all getting pints and eating loads of food. I'm being respectful of my goal if I'm on a fat loss journey. If I'm muscle building, I'm a bit more lenient. But no one gives a fuck. They don't care that I'm doing a fat loss journey. So why would they? Why would I give in to what they care about? Because it doesn't matter to them if the next day I feel like crap. You've got to be respectful of what you are trying to achieve, which then requires you to have some replacement. Like you need to replace a pint of beer with either a bottle or a spirit and diet mixer. You need to make a substitution, which could be the same thing. And you need to sacrifice maybe not staying out till 3, 4 a.m. and maybe going home at 11 or 12. You do need to make these substitutions. You do need to make these replacements. You do need to make some sacrifices. Because if you're not, you're just doing the same thing as you normally do all the time. You're just continuing being overweight. You're going to continue feeling like crap. You're going to continue feeling unconfident. You're going to continue waking up on a Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday feeling like crap and with a hangover, not moving and not training. It requires some form of replacement, some form of sacrifice, and some form of substitution. Because if you don't, you're just trying to battle the same you. You are just the old you. And I've had this conversation with clients before. I said, "What are you trying to? There's nothing that you are actually changing. That went before you came to me with. You're refusing to do this. You're refusing to do that. You're refusing to do that. Why do you think you can't get to your goal? Because you're refusing to change any part of what you are right now, which is actually where you are the most unhappiest. So that's something I really wanted to touch on. So you've got to approach fat loss, socials as well, in the mindset that, yes, these are the substitutions I need to make. This is the sacrifice I'm willing to make as well. Willing might not be the right word because there are things that I don't always want to give up on a fat loss journey, but I do because I know what I'm trying to achieve. I could go off tangent there for quite a while, but I hope you guys get the point of when it approaches your social, don't be peer pressured to do things, have banter. I get a lot of banter with the boys when I was on a fat loss journey, like having spirits and diet mixers, having bottles instead of pints. But it's because it was my goal. I was still having a good time. You can still have a good time wherever you go without having to eat loads of crap and drink and drink and drink. I can go to the pub, have a bottle of beer. Some of my mates are now having alcohol-free beers because of the way it makes them feel. But we are there to enjoy the moment, enjoy the conversations, have a laugh with everyone, chat about crap. When you're with the boys, you just chat rubbish and have fun. That's what it's about. It's not always about getting absolutely plastered, feeling like crap, and then the days after you're on your own and no one cares and no one's texting you. So that's how you approach socials, guys. That's how I do it. That's how I get my clients to do it. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. If you want to see anything in a different kind of format or any topics you want me to cover, please again drop me a message. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you soon.